Next year we will be celebrating our 100th anniversary here in Wasco. Our current mayor, Gilbert Reyna, asked if he could say a few words, and he's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Ms. Drescher, for the opportunity. I am Gilbert Reyna. My given name is Gilberto Reyna. And so there's no one running against me for this challenge. Occurring here in Wasco, and that is creating a lot of turmoil with a lot of people spreading rumors about what's going on. And so I want to read this statement to you so you have some facts. Recent criminal activity in Wasco and other communities in northern Kern County has citizens very concerned. Hopefully, the information in this statement can help alleviate some of those concerns. First and foremost, the safety of all Wasco residents is a top priority of the City of Wasco, the Kern County Sheriff's Department, and myself as a mayor of Wasco. The work of maintaining safety for our community continues uninterrupted day and night. Specifically, 4 incidents have occurred this month, starting on October 4th. None of these incidents were fatal. Each incident is under active investigation. This requires that specific facts are withheld to protect the integrity of the process. All law enforcement agencies in our area are fully cooperating, and they are working with each other. Although we all want immediate answers, the authorities must be allowed the time necessary to complete thorough investigations and bring the perpetrators to justice. These incidents worry our community, and we understand, but we cannot give into fear. While being cautious, we all must go on with our everyday lives. To this point, we have not confirmed any credible threat to private citizens, random citizens, or a particular facility or event. There is disinformation and rumor out there, and we encourage our citizens to be cautious about forwarding unsubstantiated stories. As always, you can help by reporting suspicions or criminal activity to the Kern County Sheriff's Office at 661-758-7266. For any emergency, dial 911. Thank you, your mayor. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I hope this helps a little bit. It is not as it's being portrayed out there, I can assure you of that. And police, Sheriff's Department is working diligently on this, as well as other law enforcement agencies in here. So thank you very much, and I want to wish the candidates success. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm happy that Gilbert was better than I was, because at the Rose Festival I walked off with all his notes. Remember the Rose Festival?
It's okay. I know it's something.
Yes. Let me go back. I know Gilbert had another meeting, so I was going to let him speak first, but I wanted to tell you that, as I mentioned before, that I'm the current president of the Wasco Women's Club, and we were a part. This morning I had the honor of being able to give a recognition to our sister club in the Women's Club of Bakersfield. Their beautiful clubhouse on 18th Street was designated as an historic place. And so I represented the state and was able to give them a document that was prepared by our state president. And I do want to let much larger organization, the California Federation of Women's Clubs, we have over 9,000 members and 219 clubs and several affiliate clubs. You may wonder why I talk so much about numbers, because I'm also the state treasurer. In turn, the California Federation is part of the General Federation of Women's Clubs. We are diverse in age, interests, and experiences, but are united by our desire to create positive change in our communities. The Wasco Women's Club has held candidates forums for at least 20 years. That's how long I've been a member. And maybe some of you recall that they used to be held at the high school. And I think that holding candidate forums is one of the most important things that we do. We are a nonpartisan organization, but believe that people should be making informed decisions. I will confess that sometimes, no often, I'm disappointed at the lack of participation, but we are making this available to our community. And even tonight, because one set of candidates didn't show up, but we will mention that. This forum will also be online, and I think that Veronica will be putting that you could text me at 661-868-9953 if you, I can send you the link. Or I think it's Peter's funeral home.
Peter's Funeral Home YouTube.
And YouTube. And I want to thank them for making this available for us to be seen online. And they were kind enough to do that. I think it was 2 years ago. It was 2 years ago. Yes, we did it over at the church down the next corner. And that was done online, and we did receive several hundred hits, which is encouraging. Tonight we'll be addressing our city council races. This year's elections will be held in districts 1, 3, and 4. I hope that all of you know what district you're in. I bet you don't, but a lot of you don't. If not, you can go online, type in City of Wasco, California City Council boundaries. You'll be asked for your address, and voila, you can find out what district you're in. I am in District 2. My councilman, Vincent Martinez, he's not up for election this year. And as we just heard from incumbent Gilberto Reyna is our council member for District 1, and he is running unopposed. District 3 incumbent John Polaris is running against Valentin Medina, and they are here this evening. Lastly, in District 4, appointed incumbent Mike Lynch is running against Eduardo Saldana and Myron Williams. Mike Lynch was appointed by the City Council when Tilo Cortez resigned earlier this year. Unfortunately, Mike Lynch is unable to be here this evening. He had a family vacation already planned, but he did ask me to read a statement which he dropped off at my house, and I will read that a little later. We will conduct these forums as we always have, and both John and Valentin have drawn a number, and John will give a statement first. We have in the past had timekeepers, but I don't think that's going to be necessary. And after they each give their statement, then we will open up the floor for questions, and I think that people will be able to text in a question if they would like. And I have a few. If people are shy, I do have a few questions to ask myself. And after the statements, we'll open the floor to questions. I have the two candidates sitting at the table, and I'm sure that we'll give the candidates will have plenty of time to answer. I want to thank the candidates in advance for being willing to sacrifice their time for community service. I know that it's often thankless. I say that every time. It's worse than thankless, probably. But we're lucky to have people that, like you, that are willing to serve the community. So with that, then we'll hear from John.
Did he use the language?
Yes, I will give him. Oh, I should have used it. Could you hear me all right? Did you hear me okay? Okay, you put it here.
My name is John Polaris. I lived in the area all my life. Attended semi-tropical school and St. John's and Thomas Jefferson, and graduated from the Wasco High school district. I also have an associate science degree in industrial drawing from Bakersfield College, and I've attended city meetings since 2013, and participated in a number of events and city council meetings, and that's about it. Just always been here and willing to help. So thank you.
Thank you, John. And thank you for the Wasco Women's Club for putting this together and allowing me the time to be here today. My name is Valentin Medina. I'm raised here in Wasco. I spent most of my life here. I ended up going out to college to UC Davis, got my degree, and ended up coming back here. And I live in Wasco now with my wife. We're starting a family. So I'm looking to really get engaged with the community, to give back to the community where I was raised. I actually just saw one of my kindergarten teachers here now, which was nice. Being in touch with where you're from. And really, I want to give people the option to have, another option. Me and John Roger were just talking about this a little bit before the meeting started, right? The engagement in the community, seeing more faces, seeing more people coming to the meetings, and then just giving the people, the residents of Wasco, more options. And as I begin to grow my family here, I want to ensure that Wasco is a nice place to live. I actually remember there used to be the sign that said, "Welcome to the city of Wasco," and that's a nice place to live, which I think now has been replaced, right? But I want to bring that back, right? I mean, now we hear a lot of violence that's happening here in the town of Wasco. That's something we never heard about. I mean, I never heard about when I was growing up here, and I want to make sure that we bring that back, and that our families to come, and our future generations, our youth, and kids that are raised here are going to be, raised in an area that is a nice place to live. And I really just want to be engaged with the community, give back, and I think this is, the best time to do so. Thank you.
Before we start, maybe, John, I know that you work out in Arvin, and what can you tell, maybe if you could each tell us what you do?
I work out at Groomway Farms in Arvin. The title is designer, but basically it's a draftsman that will take care of plans for mechanical conveyors, concrete work, facilities, different things like that. And so it's out in Arvin, and so it's a great place to go and work for a pleasant company.
And Valentin, you just pass that back and forth.
That works. So I actually work for also a farming company. I work for Wonderful Orchards. I'm actually the director of spray and field operations. So I oversee all of our field equipment. Right now we're actually in the middle of harvest with pistachio. So I oversee that. I have a big group that I lead. It's over 250 people that we employ for my group directly. That's full-time employees. So I have a lot to deal with on a day-to-day basis, right? So it's a lot of interacting with people, a lot of the face-to-face interactions, making sure things are running, the operational side of things, and really engaging with the employees. There's obviously always when things like that happen, that come down the pipeline, and educating them with what that means for them and for the company.
Maybe you would each like to comment on what Gilbert Mayor, you have something to say about that?
Well, I would say that it was a good common feeling to hear the statement that the city had put out. Of course, be aware of your surroundings. It's unfortunate some of these events are happening, but we got to focus on your family, your children, you know, your parental rights to see to their safety. And as individuals, if we see something ourselves, we need to say something and call it in. You know, the worst thing that we could do is not document anything that happens. Documentation would help enormously to make sure that your councilman is working on the problem, our sheriffs are working on it. Don't let anyone slip through. Report it, and it'll give us something to work with.
It was good timing. I'm actually glad that there was a statement that was put out. Obviously, there's been a lot of speculation going on as of yesterday. The problem is that it's not something new, right? This is a problem that has been going on. You hear about shootings, you hear about violence that's going on almost on a weekly basis. It's not something that you're just saying, right now it definitely seems like it's getting out of hand, just given, I guess, the rumors that are kind of going around, right? But we need to sort of take some concrete, make some concrete decisions and make some really focused decisions on how we want to move forward in terms of, you know, solving these issues. We don't want to just put a Band-Aid on it and say, hey, everything's good, nothing's happening, right? Because we know otherwise. We do hear other things that have happened throughout the rest of the year. I kind of go back to my initial statement where we really want this to be a nice place to live, where we don't hear about shootings, where we don't hear about violence going on in our town, in our city, where people are able to freely walk around up and down 7th Street, around the park, things like that, without really having to worry to be home, you know, by 6 o'clock or by 7 o'clock, or when the time changes by 5 o'clock, right? We want our families to be able to walk around freely, and I think the statement was good because I think it at least gives some sense of peace to the residents of Wasco, but I don't think that's, you know, the end-all solution. We've got to be vigilant. We do want to make sure that we are keeping together as a community and looking for solutions, long-term solutions.
I think often the elephant in the room is what we were going to do with the sheriff's department, and perhaps there was the, I know I've heard rumors that we may have to do something ourselves. Can you address that at all?
Well, you know, the city manager is looking into budgeting of a police department, resources, you know, all the elements that would be related to starting up one. But until, you know, I've seen documentation that runs across my desk, so to speak, through the agendas, you know, the short answer is we're looking into it.
So the whole police deal is obviously it's a big topic, right? We contract out with the sheriff's department, so we don't have our local police station like Chapter does, right? Chapter, they went through the whole process a couple years ago with their city manager that was able to get them the funding for our police department. For us, I don't think we're in that boat. City of Wasco is like any other city. We have a budget that we got to run by, right? So we got our finances. We got a budget for that. We got to find a way to pay for a police department, because it's not as easy as just saying, hey, we're going to allocate a police station to the city of Wasco. I wish it was that easy, but unfortunately it's not. But I think it goes back to getting the community involved. I know, you know, in terms of long-term plan, sometimes when we talk about taxes, we always say, hey, we get taxed enough, right? But can we put a price on our safety, right? If we said, hey, it's going to be $50 or $100 for Wasco residents so that we can fund a police department in the city of Wasco, who would be in favor of that? Some, right? So it really takes a village, right? How they say it. It's not just a one solution fix all type of deal, or it's going to take some time and some thinking and some really new conversations between the community with the sheriff's department or with building the future law enforcement, what that looks like. And we're really working hand in hand even with the city of Shafter, right? How did they do it? Kind of dive into how they went about being able to accomplish that, because it's not an easy task, but I know it's something that we can do.
I keep getting more and more questions in my head as we talk. And now, sorry, the 1% tax. Are people satisfied that that's being used properly, or?
I haven't heard either way. The Measure X committee reviews the Measure X funds and oversee an audit that happens every year. But if I may give some statistics, we have a budget of $12.9 million, and $6.6 million is for public safety. The sheriff department contract is $4.4 million, and so if you go on the City of Wasco website and you type in police services under the search engine, there's a 2018 report, and it states $1.5 million startup, and it would be at least $5.3 million annual budgeting function that we would have to maintain. So yes, for a police department, based on this 2018 report, we would need additional funding.
I'm not sure that I can really answer that question, just because of, I don't have direct involvement with being on the board. But one of the things that I could do in the future if I was part of the board, right, is definitely be involved with the finances and being transparent, right? I think that's the biggest thing with any board, whether it's here, it's other sort of professional boards. It's really the transparency, right? That the people, the city residents know what's going on, where the funds are going. If there's questions, that there's answers. That there's consistent communication and transparency.
Transparency has become a real buzzword. I was trying to shut down. I know Joanne had a question.
I have several.
Okay, here, I'm going to.
I have several comments and questions in regard to criminal activity.
No, it's okay.
The criminal activity that is occurring and is occurring more frequently in the city of Wasco. I know part of our problem is the fact that the sheriff don't even like to arrest people because they're out of jail or they can get all the paperwork done. And there's no, as from what I see, there's no consequences. I mean, that's a discussion that I've had with tons of people. There's no consequences. If they break a law, they break a window, they steal a car, whatever. If they catch them, you go to court and it's nothing. I mean, he doesn't even get there. And it's extremely frustrating, when you see this. Okay, so I've had several incidences at my house. Okay, one of which the sheriff caught the people. Another incident, they didn't. So, I called the sheriff's department and I spoke with the sheriff, and the person said, well, we had three people on staff that night that it happened. Now, my question to you is, if you think we need more sheriffs or we need more our own police department, how do we go about doing this? Now, I'm going to say this, that if we had a proposal that was on the ballot, that the money was just to be going for security and public safety, that would probably pass. But the dilemma is that it gets all caught up in all kinds of other stuff, like the state of California, they pass something, it goes into the general fund. If there's accountability here, it's gonna pass, okay? But the tax-paying citizens need to know where that money is going. We need to start demanding, some answers. And so I'm asking you, what can we do, or what are you going to do to help secure the city of Wasco's public safety? Because that is number one important to everyone besides the drought. That's going to be my next question.
Well, what can I do? The thing about public safety is within the realm of city council, we review the budget, we approve it or not approve it. If there's any issues, we'll take it up to the sheriff's sergeant. And that's about the extent of what I've been experiencing. The overall problem, I say, is right here. Okay, by allowing members going to the state assembly and passing these laws, and unfortunately these propositions that go by, and you are correct, we as a community need to focus on those Proposition 47, which covers the reducing crimes to misdemeanors, Prop 57, which the judges would have the discretion to whether or not to try a juvenile as an adult, Assembly Bill 109, which forced or reallocated prisoners from the prison system to the jail. So, those are some of the core issues that is bringing about this crime. And then, of course, there's the individual that wants to be a criminal and do these things. But as far as what I can do further is to continue to collaborate with local officials, whoever takes over at the state assembly level, and let them know my frustrations and my feedback. But again, it's going to take us as a statewide community to really get to the focus of some of these crimes. Law enforcement is not the answer, it's part of the solution. So it's going to take a lot of elements getting together and solving this overall crime. Was there anything that I didn't answer? Is there anything I didn't answer to your satisfaction or further? Okay. Thank you.
Anything you'd like to add? Then we want to get off the crime issue. I know that maybe someone has a question about water.
It's a great question, and I wish I had the answer. But unfortunately, this is something that we're seeing not just in Wasco, we're seeing across the state of California, because it really goes further than just Wasco, right? This is something bigger. This is at the state level where we're seeing, to what John said, it's a slap on the wrist, right? It's a slap on the wrist, and realistically, they could get picked up, even if we did have a police department that was here. What I'm hoping, or what I'm hopeful for, if we're able to establish that, is that it would reduce the criminal activity here, because we have more patrols, more policing that would be, going around. But in terms of keeping the guys where they need to be, that's more at the state level, right? That comes down to the California voters, where us as a collective have to. We're the ones that are voting on that, right? Across, up and down California. So that's really a bigger issue. I wish I had a better answer to that, but I really don't.
Does someone have a question?
Just real quick, how much leverage does our Wasco council have with the sheriff's department? Do they pay any attention to you?
as far as leverage, I think it's limited. I would say it is limited because once the contract's in place, we have to let them do their jobs. We cannot get in there. We're still civilians. We need to let them work, do whatever process they need to do. For me to step in and do something, I would create more of a distraction for the sheriff department. If there's an emergency, the best thing for a council member to do is to stay back, stay by their phone, and wait to be called in to the city chambers for an emergency meeting. The sheriff, they have to have this element of taking care of their job. I believe a lot of their duties are specified in the California Constitution, but it's kind of hard reading for me to understand some of that.
I don't know if so much has been said about the crime. I don't know if there's anything more to be said. Maybe you'd, I know that Marlene had a question about our water situation, and it was questioning whether we're going to have enough water for everyone in the next few years. And should we, I know my husband used to say this all the time, is that you cannot stop people from building, but you don't have to take them, you don't have to bring them into the city. They have to make their own accommodations for water. So maybe you could both address the water issue in the city.
The water issue for the city, I would say it's going in the right direction. The city recently obtained property for new wells north of the Walmart area and south of Filburn. And what's the thought of to drill new wells to get a water infrastructure that will supply the city, as well as on the research, if we go forward with building water retention or not water retention, storage for emergencies or even just maintaining water pressure. So I believe we're working in the right direction for the water. We're just moving forward with it.
We were in a drought. We got out of the drought back in, was it 2017? 2018, right? 2017 when we had that wave, got hit with water storage. Doesn't matter if it's a domestic well, if it's an ag well, if we're just pumping, and we have drought years, right? We need to make sure that we're replenishing those wells when we do have the water. Because there's years like at the end of 2017 when we had a lot of water, but what happens to all of our goes all the way to the south, it kind of just runs off and we don't have any storage, right? Because on those wet years,